Hi, I'm Midge Shoemaker, and today is day 22 of my doing 100 days of YouTube videos and focusing on my writing. So, yay, I made it to day 22. That makes me happy. I am very grateful I made it to day 22. I kind of feel like I feel like I'm stuck in my writing. I wish I didn't feel stuck, but maybe not stuck is the right word, but I feel like it's just taking forever to finish what I want to do. Like, I can picture it in my mind. I can picture the finished product in my mind. I've written the books the first time. Why does it take so much longer to go through the second time? And I swear I've been rewriting Lanoya like forever. And then tonight I did the dumbest thing. I have too many documents open on my laptop, and I closed all the ones from the Fall of Us Finglonja, because I'm like, okay, I'm just going to work on recognizing God's hand in my life and doing Lanoya and the Teachers of Powers. So those are the only ones that I have open. But I have multiple versions of Lanoya open because I'm trying to figure out the different comments from my different friends. So tonight I'm making all of these edits, and I made them in the wrong document. I felt so dumb. I was like, and now I'm wondering if I made them. And then, of course, I was wondering if I made all of my changes in the wrong document. So then I had to look at the right document and be like, okay. Because it was one my friend had sent me, and she's the one that didn't make the comment. So I had to like read hers individually to see how it compared to the other one. And I just clicked on hers and was reading through it. So I'm just making the changes in that one. And then I'm like, now I gotta make them in the other one. So they're all in the same document, all in the same book. So they're not changed here, changed there, changed in like 4 different places, and then it's not all together. I need all of the changes to be all together, all the revisions all together, so it's still all one book all together. So that was just like, a little bit frustrating. And then I keep thinking I'm going to get past this. I think I got to chapter 5 at one point, and then my friend that's doing my book covers for me sent me her version of the first 4 chapters. So now I've gotten through chapter 3 of her stuff, and I still haven't got past chapter 5. And I started chapter 4 tonight, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm done reading this. And I like the story. I like my story. I'm like, I'm reading it. I'm like, okay. But I keep going back and forth because I think a lot of chapter 2 and some of chapter 3, I changed it for my friend, and then I would think about it. I was like, no, I'm going to change it back to my way. And then somewhere I think I found a compromise that makes me happy, where I just added some more detail, but I still left the characters basically the same and doing basically the same things, which I know my friend is not going to like, but I don't care because I'm not writing it specifically to her, and nobody else seemed to have a problem with it. And I talked to another friend of mine. I need to start giving my friends like names or something to attach to them because I have more friends. Um, Anyway, I have 2 more friends that I haven't normally talked about in my videos, I think. I talked to one of them on Monday, and I'm going to lunch with her on Thursday, and she said she's going to read through the first 4 chapters, and then she's going to see if her opinion matches or differs from my friend that's doing my book cover. So that will be interesting. I may just start calling my friends by their first initials or by something you can associate them with. Because, I have my friend that does the board. I have my friend that introduced me to my gratitude videos. I have my friend that's doing my book covers. I have my friend that did beta read my book, and I beta read hers, so we swapped books. I have the person from my writing group that I did a review of her book, but she didn't have time to read my book. So anyway, and then I have my friend that I'm going to lunch with, so I'm just going to call her A. That is my friend A, my A friend. She's awesome. I love her. Anyway, there's that friend. And then I have another friend that I was texting tonight, and I'm going to call her B. Her and her husband, Jay. I love that B-J thing. It reminds me of MASH, if anybody's old enough to have watched MASH, and the one guy, and his name is BJ. And Hawkeye's always trying to figure out what the BJ stands for. He's like, it doesn't stand for anything. It's just BJ. He's like, who would do that? He's like, well, my mother B and my father J. Anyway, I have a friend, and I'm going to just B and J. Anyway, she and her husband. I emailed it to her so she could share it with him. I don't know if he's even looked at any of it, but she's actually started to try to figure out my recognizing God's hand in my life. And I was like, oh dear. And she did make some interesting comments. I tried to read through all of her comments, but I'm a little confused, mostly because my book is very confusing. But she did ask some questions like, how does this fit into the story? Or some asking for more detail, like what's the meaning of this, and why did I feel this way. She like asked more in-depth questions that I was like, oh, I have to delve deeper into my life to tell you this. I'm not looking forward to that. So I did finish. I ended up rewriting all of chapter 2. I decided to change it entirely again tonight, which is super frustrating. Well, it's not super frustrating. It's just, it's frustrating. I'm sorry. I'm just, I want my book to be good, and I want it to flow in some semblance of order, and I want it to make some sense, and kind of just trying to share my history and the things that happen in my life, and then trying to figure out how that's important or why that's important. And so trying to put the important things in there that have a meaning, and try to express what that meaning is, and trying to decide how to not distract too much from it. Because I'm like, I don't know how much to explain in the moment versus this is just the history. This is what happened in my life. Do I need to add like why that's important now in my future? At the moment I do the history, or do I just do the history and then later in my life explain the history? So I'm kind of a little back and forth hesitant on that as far as I wrote the chapter, and then at the end I'm just kind of like, okay, so now do I explain why that's important, or do I write the rest of it and just kind of go back to that being important later in the book? Not the story. I guess it's technically the story of my life, but I'm not making it up. It's actually what I remember, which of course in some cases may be made up because the mind and the memory is not always 100% accurate, and it is portrayed based on our perceptions at the time, which can be very distorted, as I have learned over my lifetime. So I did end up rewriting chapter 2, and then I kind of sent it to my friend because she's out of work for the week apparently, so she has time to kind of go over it. So I'm like, okay, cool. Well, if you have the time, here you go. Here's the stuff. So yay. Glad she has some time to look at it, and maybe I can get through more of it. But again, it's weird because I'm like, I'm reading it and I'm like, yes, this happened, but then I'm like, wait a second, this doesn't go with this doesn't go with this, and I was like, what is this? This doesn't even make sense to me. So I don't want to go back through and read my book. I don't know how she's doing it. So I'm like, thank you for doing that. Sorry, it's such a mess. I promise I'll fix it. My other friend that's doing my vision board, I was talking to her about it. She's like, so I could just kind of set this aside and wait for your revised version. And I was like, yeah, it'll make more sense, I hope. So I think that is wise of her. I offered that choice to my friend B, and she was like, no. She's like, I've already started making notes. I'll just finish making notes and you can just send me whatever you've got revised. And I was like, okay, you're brave. Thank you. So it's just going to be, I know everything takes longer than I want it to, or that I think that it will, and it's going to just be a process. It's a longer process than I want it to be. And I sit down thinking I'm going to make all of this progress on my books and on my writing, and I barely finished chapter 3 and just reading through it, and then having to read through it a second time because I made the changes in the wrong document and had to go back through and make them in the right document. And then I'm like, well, there goes that time. I'm not doing it anymore tonight because I can't believe I did that. And then I hope that I didn't change anything prior to that it was all in the right document. It looked like it was, because it looked like I saved it in the other document yesterday date. And I always save a new, my mentor taught me to do this, to always save a new date document. So every day I just go in and change the date that I save it as. So any changes I make, so I'm like, I have all of the changes. So if I ever change my mind on something, I can go back to the old one. So I'm learning to do that with all of my versions. So I will have like probably a gazillion, like I do with the Fall of Espanglonja. I can't even keep track of all of those ones. It's so annoying. But so like I said, I think I just kind of get frustrated with the process, and trying not to give up. I can't give up. I'm on day 22. So I still have 78 days of writing to go, and I'm sure that God will provide some miracle through me to finish these books. It is possible. I know it's possible. I can do this. I just need to keep going, to just keep trying, and I need to accept that it's going to take longer than I think that it will, and I need to stop putting unrealistic expectations on myself. And I think I do that because I'll be like, oh, I'm going to do so many chapters a night, and then it takes me too long to do the chapters, or I get too emotional doing a chapter, or I end up rewriting an entire chapter instead of just making a couple of revisions and moving everything around. And then I'm like, well, there goes there goes that, because at some point I have to sleep. At some point I have to get up and go to work tomorrow. At some point I have other things I have to do. So I can't just spend my entire day working on my writing. I would love to. I've spent entire days doing that, and I wish that I had the time that I could do that, and I don't. So I have to accept that I don't have that much time, so I can't keep putting those time frames on myself, like, I'm going to do it at this point. Because part of the problem with my putting time frames on myself like that is that I hit the timeline, the deadline, and then I haven't finished what I set out to do. And I get discouraged, I get disappointed, and then I feel like, okay, I give up and I can't do this. And the beauty of doing 100 days of writing, just like the 100 days of gratitude, is I don't know the outcome at the end of 100 days. Like at the end of 100 days of gratitude, I thought I would actually have a book finished, and I ended up not writing most of those 100 days that I was focused on my gratitude. So as much as I would like to have some books finished or published at the end of my 100 days, I have no idea how that's going to turn out. And right now, the first 20 days, I am nowhere near where I thought I would be. Because I thought, if I'm doing a chapter a day on my books, then I has only 22 chapters. I should have like 22 days. I should be done with that book. Revising it should be done. I'm still on chapter 4. So I'm not getting anywhere with this book. I feel like I'm not getting anywhere, but I know that I am. And I also know that I didn't start revising Lanoia and the Teachers of Powers the first day I started doing this, because I was working on The Fall of Espanglanda, and I was working on reading my writing book friend's book to do a review for her book. And then I did the beta reading for my friend that beta read Lanoia for me. So, and then I started actually revising Lanoia. So I'm like, I can give myself a little bit of a break on that one, a little bit. But The Fall of Espanglanda is also 24 chapters long, and I got to chapter 12 and I kind of stopped. So didn't quite make 2 weeks on that one. And it's just been kind of all over the place trying to figure out what I'm doing with that story. And then and now I'm working on Recognizing God's Hand in My Life, which I started on Sunday, I think. Sunday. And it's Tuesday. It's only been 2 days, 3 days, and I'm finally done with chapter 2. So I think I'm done with chapter 2. But it's just a reminder to me that it's a process, and that it's going to take a lot longer than I want it to. And that, yes, I can sit down and ramble off a whole bunch of stuff and write a book like I did with that one. Or I can sit down and think through it and read back through it and make sure that it's good. And then even if I just sit down and write it out, so it's got all the ideas and the plot line and whatever, and then go back and revise it to smooth it all out and make sure it all makes sense. And then go back probably like a third time. I need to do it at least that many times probably before I send it to someone else to make sure that everything makes sense to me. And then I send it to someone else, and then they come back with all the things that don't make sense to them. And then I have to go back through and make all those changes again. And then, and again. I don't know how many times it has to be rewritten before I feel confident and comfortable enough in my writing to be like, okay, this book is done. It's as good as it's going to get. I'm going to send it to an editor. I'm going to find an editor and send it to an editor, and then I'm going to publish it. So, I have my illusions of grandeur, and I would like to have those books available in December. I would love to be able to give them away as Christmas presents because I'm so close to finishing them. But I don't know if that's going to happen at this point. Because it's just everything is taking longer than I want it to. So I'm trying not to get disappointed or discouraged in the process, and remembering to just be gentle with myself and being grateful that at least I'm looking at my books every single day. At least I'm having to write something, even if it's just one page or, just reviewing one chapter and making like 5 or 6 edits to it or something to make it make sense. I added like 5 or 6 words, but I'm a slow reader and I'm making sure that it looks good, that it reads the same. And like I said, I didn't get any further in Lanoia because I did the changes in the wrong book, in the wrong version, and had to switch it. But I'm doing something, and I'm grateful that I'm doing something. And it makes me grateful that I did my gratitudes, because it reminds me to be grateful for things and to be able to just smile and enjoy life, and to be able to laugh. Like I've been laughing in this video and laughing at myself for my mistakes. And I'm actually surprisingly not as frustrated as I thought I would be. I know I've said I'm frustrated. I am a little disappointed, frustrated, because it's not going as quickly as I want it to be. But in the moment when I'm sitting there writing it, I'm like, it feels good. I feel at peace with what I'm doing, with what I'm writing. I feel like my writing is getting better. I'm trying to make things make sense to myself, and hopefully if it makes sense to me, and I'm easily confused, it will make sense to other people. But then again, I think my brain is all jumbled and all kinds of things, and I have tons of ideas that overlap, and I get sidetracked, and sometimes I do that in my writing as well. And I don't realize that that's what I'm doing, which is why it's great to have friends that are willing to read my books and say, what were you thinking when you did that? I was like, I don't know, oh, okay, I guess it doesn't make sense. Or like one sentence, my friend was like, what does this have to do with anything? And I'm staring at that sentence. I don't know how long I stared at that sentence. I'm like, it makes sense to me. I'm like, why doesn't that sentence make sense? And she's like, it's just out of nowhere, out of the blue. And I was like, it's not. It totally goes with the story. That's what happened. And I was like, okay, how do I make that sentence act like it belongs with the rest of the story? Because that's what happened. So I had to figure out a way to reword it. It took me a few tries, before I figured it out. Because like I said, some things that make sense to me doesn't necessarily make sense to the reader. And I don't have to change the ideas for my story, but it's a good idea for me, I think, to change the wording if it helps to convey the meaning to the reader. And that's what I think I'm learning with Lanoia and my friend that has a different opinion as to how my book should be written and how things should be done. And I was like, it's my world. Things are going to be done in my world the way that I want them to be done, because I'm making them up the way that I want them to be made up. And, so I will try to address the other issues, the things that she's not understanding, and add more detail to make it so she can understand the environment and whatever better. But I'm not going to change my character, because I'm okay with my character the way that she is. And no one else seems to have a problem with my character. So I'm just like, and the more people I get feedback from, the better I'm able to gauge what I have to fix and change, and what is just like one person's opinion and everybody else gets what I wrote, so I'm good. But I know I haven't always been the best at communicating. I wasn't taught how to communicate well. And when I did try to communicate, I was often told that it didn't matter because it didn't bother someone else, or I shouldn't feel that way, or it was okay because they knew I would understand, even though I'm sitting there saying I don't understand. So it just felt like I wasn't being heard, and I couldn't find the words to do it. So I just learned to be very repetitious, which just got on people's nerves and didn't actually solve anything. And I'm not very good at confrontations, so the whole communication thing is hard for me. I feel like I do a better job of it through my writing, and I'm grateful I have chances to go back through and fix mistakes before the book actually gets published. So by the time most of you watching these videos will actually read my books, they will have gone through several rewrites and revisions and editing, hopefully by someone that's much better at editing than I am, and before they get published. And then obviously by the time you read them, they'll be the best version that I could create. And hopefully my writing will continue to improve with each book that I write, because I will learn more from reading other people's books and from the books that I've written and the feedback that I get, so that I can make the next book better and the next book better. And it will hopefully get a little bit easier and not as stressful and crazy as it is right now. But it is what it is. And maybe it would be good if I would just stick to one book instead of bouncing through all my different books. But my brain goes lots of different places, and sometimes I just can't make myself focus on one. And I'm like, this is the one I want to finish, and I'm dead. Like my brain is blank. Like I got nothing on this one, and I got all these ideas for the other book, and I'm like, all right. So I'm learning to just like, okay, I'm just going to jump to the other book. And so I'm trying to remember that and trying to be gentle with myself and knowing that this goal is to write for 100 days. And if in the 100 days I can get a book published, that would be amazing. And if not, I will be disappointed. I will admit I will probably be very disappointed. But I will know that I've been making progress because I will be learning things about myself and about my writing. And I will still be learning, what I need to do. And I will still be working towards my goal to get a book published. It's just obviously, so far, it's taken way longer than I thought it was ever going to take. And I'm hoping that once I figure out how to get the first one or two books published, that the next ones will be easier after that and easier after that to write and to finish and to do. And hopefully the more books I get done, the less I will have to scatter my brain to multiple different book ideas. The problem is I already have like 20 to 50 book ideas in my head. So trying to just stick to one or two is not the easiest thing for me to do. And I still like to avoid anything that requires me to face my emotions and have to deal with things and put it off as long as I possibly can, which is why I'm always doing these videos so late, because I put it off as long as I possibly can. And I keep telling myself every day, I'm going to do it different. I'm going to do it different. And today I'm like, I'm going to do it different. But I got like 4 hours of sleep and I decided to take a nap instead. So, I got up, I did stuff. I hung out with my friend for a little bit. Added some stuff to my vision motivation board. Looks really cool. I'm not going to show you because I don't want to get up and get my board. I'm being lazy. But it looks really cool. I'm excited that she was willing to help me do that. And we visited for a little bit. And then she left. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to get ahead of the game. I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to go to work. And And then I was like, I am so tired. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go back to bed and take a nap. But it made me grateful for last night and reading the reminder of my grandpa telling me that my sleep was more important. And I was like, I need to remember to take care of myself. And it's so odd that going back through and looking at that in my book and those times that I spent with my grandparents, that all this time later, realizing that they were actually trying to teach me how to take care of myself and what was important. And I didn't learn that in my house growing up. So I did, there's that part of me that remembers that from when I was very little, that was important. And I'm grateful for these memories that are coming back, that as I'm writing my history, I can remember that love and I can remember being cared for and listened to and being paid attention to. Like what I had to say was important and it was exciting. It was silly and ridiculous, but my grandparents listened and they loved me and they cared about me and I felt safe, and that's not how I felt at home with my parents and my siblings. I'm pretty sure my siblings didn't feel safe either. It was not the best environment. So it's nice to remember that I was loved. And I think that I forgot that the older that I got. And so going back and looking at that, because struggling to feel like I'm loved or deserve love, and then remembering that, and it's like, wow, what a reminder that I was loved. I was treated well. I did have good things in my life. I do have good memories to fall back on. And I'm so grateful for those good memories that I can remember, that I can write about, that I can see in my life right now and realize that I have been loved my whole life. Just maybe not from the people I thought should love me the way that I thought they should love me. And maybe there was just so many other bad things, and I focused so much on the negative things and the trauma things that I didn't see the positive or the good things. And so it's writing this book, recognizing God's hand in my life, is giving me a lot of gratitude. So not only did I see a lot of good things in my life by focusing on my gratitude, but I'm seeing a lot of things that I was taught when I was younger and being like, okay, my grandparents were trying to teach me good things. I learned good things. And I had good experiences. I just forgot them. I buried them underneath all of the bad things. And this is giving me an opportunity to bring them to the surface, to see them again, to see that there's way more good things than bad things, and that even in the bad things, I was blessed with good things, or I learned things that helped me get through the rest of my life in spite of the bad things. And so it makes me very grateful for that, and to realize that I wouldn't have had the experiences and the opportunities or the blessings that I have in my life if I hadn't gone through those bad things. So I'm learning a lot from writing this book and kind of my history, but it brings up the bad as well as the good, and even the good makes me emotional because I'm sad that I missed it. I'm sad that I forgot about it, and I'm also sad because both of my grandparents have passed away now, so I can't thank them or talk to them in person. And I still miss them. But I am grateful for them and for what they taught me. And I am grateful that I can write about it. And I am grateful that I can share about it in these videos. And I'm grateful that I can find things to still be grateful for. Because I think it's the gratitude and the focusing on the good things that are going to help me get through all of this. And to see all of the things that are coming back up in my life as positive things to help me to remember, to grow, to let go of the hurt and the pain, and to see the lessons that I've learned, to see God's hand in my life, to be able to share it with other people, to share it with you, so that you know that that there is hope, there is a way up, there is a way out, and that God is there for you. He's always been there for you. You just have to be willing to see Him. And one of the best ways to do that is to focus on gratitude. And as dumb as that sounds, it totally works. But you have to do it for a long period of time and find some way to track it, to write it down, to see the changes in yourself, and try to find something new and different to be grateful for every day, not just the same mundane, I'm grateful I have a house and clothes and a car, whatever, transportation, a job, food to eat. And you can say the same things every day and just be like grateful, and it doesn't mean anything. But if you're focused on looking for new things and focusing on seeing God's hand in your life, the miracles will appear, and you will see the changes in your own life, and you will feel your self-worth and your value increase because God loves you. And I know that from my own personal experiences, and I'm so grateful for that, and I'm so grateful that I get to share that in these videos, that I get to write about it, that I get to see it in my writing to remind me of the blessings that I've had in my life, the ones that I forgot, that got buried under all the bad memories, because it's sad, but it's very true. That saying where it takes 10 positive things to outweigh one negative thing, and that most people won't comment on the positive things, positive experiences they have, like a restaurant or a place that they go out to eat. But if they have a negative experience there, they will always remember that negative experience, and they're less likely to come back, and they're likely to tell everyone else about their negative experience. And so it's a lot harder to get customers to come back to places if they've had a bad experience. But if they've had a good experience, they're more likely to come back, but people that have good experiences aren't as likely to share that with other people. So it's a nice reminder to me to remember to share the good things as well as the bad things, and to recognize that there's a lot more good out there than there is bad. But for some reason, the bad just sticks out more. It seems to weigh more. It's much heavier to carry around. And it's so much better and lighter in life to let it go. So I'm still learning. I'm still in the process. It's going to take me probably forever to figure this out. But I'm just sharing as I go, and I'm grateful that I'm still willing to do it and work through it, even if I am waiting until the last minute. So that's all I have today. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day full of gratitude.